Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is One of One, buddy. You can call me Seven. Yeah, we're in recovery mode now. The fighting is over. Toko won on all fronts. Alice and Aoko were completely wiped out, and not only were they completely wiped out, were they defeated, they suffered awful, awful injuries. Especially Aoko. I don't even know what happened to her. But we're gonna go find out, so let's see what the aftermath of all this fighting is going to do to all of our characters. Let's find out. Magic crests containing the Alzaki's secret arts decorated her body. Even if her spine was broken, as long as her body was alive, yes, we knew this. Despite the crest easing the pain a little, she still hurt enough to want to kill that wolf 100 times over. Oh, okay. All right, I have immediately figured out what happened. And piecing together what Aoko said also in the last episode, where she said after she defeated Alice, Toko came to her, and the wolf messed her up, so just absolutely savaged both of them. Okay. If all the sigils have been broken, Misaki City's ley lines are wide open. We thought we had the edge of having the big picture of the area, but if Toko's known for a while, then she's a step ahead of us. Let's be real. How long do you think it'll take her to transfer Dominion rights? It won't even take her 2 days. She has no choice but to wait for the land itself to restore the sigils. By the time the defenses are in working order again, this town will be as good as hers. So come tomorrow morning, I lose everything. What about you, Alice? Any fight left in you? I can manage a little bit of mental magecraft. After that, I'd be relying on trinkets. Yeah, what are you guys gonna do against... What are you guys gonna do against a mystic like that? It seems, if it's the antithesis to everything magecraft, what are you supposed to do? Alice knew all too well what that look meant. Her staring at the ceiling. Yeah, you're still planning on fighting? Can you blame me? It's not like I can give up. What about you? Once something is mine, it stays mine. Oh my god, yes. Aoko muttered in agreement to Alice's terse response. Alice's intense attachment to her possessions was enough to make even Aoko shiver. Once something is mine, it stays mine. To take it a step further, betrayal was an unforgivable sin. This personal motto was further proof of her uncompromising nature. That settles it then. I'm gonna get some rest. Come hell or high water, I'll be ready by tonight. If the nun who stitched her back together had heard that, she would have fainted. Aoko could barely even eat in her current condition. Even so, Alice nodded and stood up. As Aoko's partner, she knew that once her mind was made up, she had to trust her. Silently, the girl in black began to take her leave. Oh. She stopped in front of the door, her hand to her mouth. Aoko was curious, suspecting that Alice had something silly to say again. Quite the contrary. Instead of blushing, Alice furrowed her brow like she was thinking over a difficult riddle. Moshi mosh. Alice remained with her back to her roommate. How did... The seed that... I've been wondering about that ever since I recorded that last episode. How did he make it to me in time? Yeah. He was 12 minutes from the station on foot, 30 minutes away from where she was. I can't remember. Yashirogi? I think that's right, yeah. She spoke as if the words had accidentally burst out from her thoughts. Alice's question was about something Aoko could not possibly have guessed. It happened before, too. Even though we took the first train back. She carried on mumbling at the door. Unable to find an answer, Alice gloomily put her hand on the doorknob. If you don't want to say, it's fine, but if you do, then spit it out already. Alice did not respond. She opened the door to leave the room and left a few words hanging in the air. It might be nothing. By the way, Yuika said she couldn't see Shizuki. The door closed with a thud. That doesn't happen every day. Blind since birth. Oh, I see. Yuika Suse saw the world through her other senses. She was especially sensitive to enemies or those who bore ill will, and typically viewed almost everyone as a threat, presumably because that was the easiest thing to pick up on. So when she said she couldn't see Sojiro, that meant he was completely harmless. Oh man, okay, interesting. All right. So what do we do, fellas? Because now we're on the clock again. This time it's even worse. Both of our main gals, our leading ladies, are out of action. Super injured and hurt. I mean, they just suffered crushing defeats at the hands of Beowulf. And all they have left is this church and Sojiro, but even then, the church is just to shelter them. They're not actually supposed to help. They're here to monitor. They have a day at most, and then Toko will have taken over Miyazaki City. Oh, and then that harmless individual decided to pay the small sick room a visit. Sojiro looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over. It made Aoko wonder who the real patient was. What do you want? Oh. Though Aoko could barely move, she was still able to give him the cold shoulder. His expression gaunt, Sojiro grunted something or other before beginning to speak more coherently. Alice was sleeping in the guest room, and I was in the chapel. People started coming in, so I came here. Must be time to worship. It is Christmas. It was indeed Christmas, but regular mass was on Christmas Eve. The ones gathering in the chapel must have been truly devout followers. Tourists were rare in Misaki after all, so much so that almost no one visited the area this time of year. The worshippers must have been locals. So, why do you care? There might be someone there you know. Aoko was as distant as ever. She clearly had not forgotten the fact he had vomited when he saw her, and a hint of spite leaked into her voice. Come on, girlie. He was just horrified at seeing you like that. You don't know what you looked like when you were that injured. Come on. It's not that. I just thought it might be a good chance to ask you some things. Can we talk for a bit? Since Aoko was always in a bad mood, Sojiro did not pick up on anything out of the ordinary. She wanted to tell him to go drink some water because he looked ready to collapse, but he didn't seem aware of his own condition. And to be fair to him, Alice did say Aoko was in bad shape. Given how unaccustomed to blood Sojiro was, it was no wonder he had fainted. Oh, of course. You're probably still too injured to talk. Sorry. I'll come back later. Sojiro seemed to have misunderstood Aoko being deep in thought as not having enough stamina to speak. Naturally, this did not sit well with Aoko. Hold it right there. If you came to talk, I could talk just fine. Okay, so you're not the best distraction, but beggars can't be choosers. Sojiro sensed this was going to be rough, but took a seat on the chair next to the bed. What do you want to ask? She spoke energetically. Naturally, she knew she was fooling no one. You really are strong, Aozaki. I'm relieved to see that you're okay. Oh, Sojiro said, nodding in admiration. Aoko shot him an unimpressed look in response to the unwanted praise. Honestly, you have the worst timing. Nothing, forget it, just something from a dream. It's nothing to do with you. Oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that. She did have the dream as she was coming to. Almost everyone in her dream was here in the church, turning her dour expression into an irritated one. Alright, questions. What's going on now that I'm involved? Sojiro spoke calmly, making Aoko wonder if he really understood the gravity of his situation. He was Toko's enemy now. He was defenseless and needed protection. Neither Aoko nor Alice could help him, and the church could withdraw their sanctuary at any moment. He had picked a side, and that had turned him from innocent bystander into target. The answer he sought was as simple as that. He knew the facts. He was not a mage and was therefore powerless. I guess you did help Alice. Aoko did owe him for that. To say thanks, she decided to at least give him the whole story up until now. Alright, here comes the walkthrough, fellas. The battle began at the end of November. A lot had happened since then, including meeting Sojiro. It all started a month ago when the edge of the bounded field around Misaki City was taken down, the 5th time since I became successor. Misaki City was officially under attack. This time, instead of attacking us directly, the enemy started by taking the land. Everyone that had come before her had been a bunch of amateurs all full of themselves attacking us head-on. They all ended up as kibble for Alice's watchdog. Anyway, 2 types of bounded fields surrounded this area. One detects intruders, one siphons energy from the land. The enemy attacked the latter. If the entire field is destroyed, then Alice and I effectively lose our ownership of this land. Without land, we become no different than rogue mages. Of course, we had another field set up to detect intruders, but it didn't do what it was supposed to, and now we know why. The enemy was my sister, Toko Aozaki. Aozaki bounded fields aren't going to recognize a fellow Aozaki as a threat. Alternatively, she may have just known about a blind spot and slipped in that way. As the original successor, it's only natural she'd have that knowledge to begin with. So, since she was invisible to us, she had free reign to break bounded field sigils. She deliberately attacked them slowly, one by one, to make us think it was an outsider. If she'd broken them all at once, I'd suspect it was one of my relatives, such as someone from the Asagi family. While we were stupid to fall for her little game, it's also possible it took her a long time to destroy the field. Our fields are made of strong stuff. They typically last for 6 months. An enemy would need to figure out how many sigils supported the field, what elements comprised them, and the correct order to take them down. All the while making sure the mage they belong to doesn't notice. If we did notice, we'd locate the intruder's base and eliminate them before any damage could be done. So bounded fields are either broken during a drawn-out battle or preemptively before it even starts. Usually, the enemy threatens to break the sigils to lure the landowner out. Then things are settled there and then with a duel between mages. Doing that eliminates the need to completely destroy a field. It's much faster to take out the landowner and, as long as they can decipher the formula, seize the fields and land afterward. If you don't destroy the fields, you don't have to remake them. Besides, ones that have been in the land for years are stronger. That was how Aoko and Alice were duped. They never thought the enemy would waste the time and effort needed to break all sigils. And that's why they went on the defensive. Figured we could take the enemy surprise while they searched for the sigils, take them out one by one, but that's when things started to go south, when a certain busybody saw something he shouldn't have at the local park. Oh, there we go. Indeed. It was the ultimate taboo in the world of magecraft. The existence of mages must never be revealed to outsiders. And you know the rest, right? I had no choice but to leave our battle with the enemy to Alice and devote my time to searching for the eyewitness. In case you haven't realized, I'm talking about you, so don't give me a soppy look like you're surprised. No sooner had Aoko said that, Sojiro gave her that exact look. Clearly he had been listening, but not necessarily understanding. Whatever. It's water under the bridge. Actually, thanks to your cluelessness, our secret is still safe. Anyway, the fact I went looking for you worked in the enemy's favor. Alice was their biggest threat. With us separated, she could take me out. That's when she sent her special puppet. Or so I thought at the time. It turns out she only sent it to mess with me. Otherwise, why use a puppet that looked just like me? Sojiro nodded, thinking back to the Aoko replica. Remember, I'd prefer it if you forgot about that incident altogether. After that, you can fill in the blanks. Alice and I turned our attention to fighting the enemy, spending most nights tracking her fruitlessly until the fight last night. That's the long and short of it. She stared down at her body as if recalling what had happened would help her accept her current state. Under the sheet, magical energy steadily flowed through her partially bandaged body. Okay, Elsa. I think I'm all caught up. But what about you? Why are you in this state? Sojiro's specific concern was the reason Aoko was lying there. More than anything, he wanted to know what had happened to her the night before. We lost. What more is there to say? Judging by her tone, she could have raised both hands sarcastically in celebration if she could. Or she would have. You lost? It sucks, but there's no getting around it. The moment all 5 sigils were broken, it was over. The land rights are up in the air until tomorrow when Toko claims them. In trying to prevent that, Alice and I ended up like this. The tables have turned, so from here on, we'll be the challengers. We are the rogue mages. Which meant that Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro only had a few more days with which to utilize the church's services. Ida Church was not only an arm of the Mages Association, but also a branch of the Holy Church that monitored heresy. Aoko and Alice were owners of Misaki City's spiritual lands, but they belonged to neither of these organizations. The only reason the church helped them at all was because they were the land's administrators. Once those rights were lost, the church would have no reason to provide any further aid. He's neutral, Yuika's the church executor. Once I'm healed, she'll kick me out. The church sees mages as their professional competition. And that stupid Ritsuka. Well, she might help out if I cried. Sojiro understood little of what Aoko was talking about. I didn't mean that, Aozaki. I meant what actually happened last night. Sojiro pressed her, and Aoko really wished he had not. Can't tell by looking? They wiped the floor with me. My throat was torn to pieces along with the rest of me. My right thigh was basically gone. If it wasn't for Alice's chocolate, I'd have bled to death. She knocked on the cast around her leg. Aoko spoke casually, but she was trying to hide how much she wanted revenge for being humiliated. In contrast, Sojiro felt empty. The little color he had in his face began to fade. Was he repulsed by the terrible situation, or were his instincts telling him to flee? Regardless, he appeared very human. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, wait. I know. You were stupid enough to look at me and throw up, am I right? Well, you can stop worrying. I'm in one piece now. Yuika's a pro and I'm still alive. Regeneration is a specialty of the Aozaki mages, so I'll be fine. She gave him a reassuring look, but his expression was unchanged. Aoko had expected him to worry, but this level of concern made it hard for even her to berate him. Feeling embarrassed, she started talking again. The question is, how on earth did my sister manage to tame a golden wolf? I didn't even know they existed. I didn't even think they existed. He's a relic from the Age of Gods. You'd need Magecraft a millennium in the making just to stand a chance against him, never mind trying to take him in a fistfight. As images of the night before entered Aoko's mind, she bit her lip in anguish. The golden wolf? Conversely, the bizarre phrase snapped Sojiro out of his state of shock. Golden werewolf, then again, you'd probably never heard of a werewolf. Think part human, part wolf, but only the best parts. Magical beast as opposed to a wild one. There are always ways to deal with regular werewolves, but the one with Toko has a golden code. He's a descendant of the first werewolves and a transcended magical beast. Oh, here we go. Here's our fate. Fate Stay Night. Fate, all the other fate properties. Phantasmal beast. To take on such a pure monster, you need a mystic with a longer history or some really secret magecraft. Nothing else will even scratch him. Magecraft can do almost anything, but it just can't compete with something so ancient. He's the kind of natural disaster that any human mage dreads fighting. Her words indicated more admiration than hatred. The way she'd whispered about the wolf, strangely, made sense to Sojiro. What? Out with it already. Oh, I was just thinking how there's something out there that even you and Alice can't defeat. It must be truly awful. It tore apart Alice's stomach and you... Well, you don't have anywhere that wasn't torn apart. How could a kid... Actually, I guess it's because he's a kid that he doesn't know how to hold back. What are you... Sojiro's face was as ghostly pale as he muttered nervously. Aoko merely nodded in agreement. Now you get it. What kid has the nerve to do that to someone's... Wait, what did you just say? Aoko raised her head. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. Did you just say kid? How the heck do you know that? I realized it was him that day. I'd never seen someone with such golden hair in my life. It has to have been him. We were deep in the woods. It didn't look anything like the monster you described, though. Oh! Oh! There was a purpose to that day happening in the story. What? Kinomi wanted me to run after him. I told him no way. Of course, the kid freaked me out. I knew there was no catching him. His tone was as curious as the things he was trying to articulate. Aoko, however, had more pressing matters. Much more pressing. At the old school campus, come to think of it, I might have even met him. Just once when I was working, I delivered 50 kilos of raw beef and... You absolute idiot! Oh my god. A strangely satisfying slapping sound rang out, ignoring her wounds completely. Aoko had grabbed his slipper and thrown it at Sojiro's unassuming face as hard as she could. She panted as Sojiro was not completely out of his chair. For a while, neither moved. What was that for, Aozaki? The boy asked, unfazed as he slowly picked himself up. He sat cross-legged as Aoko scowled at him like an enemy. Who keeps something like that to themselves? I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Even if I had, the two of you would have just gotten mad at me. Aoko knew he was right, and so she swallowed her words. She imagined themselves at dinner. You'll never guess what I did today. I delivered a mountain of beef to an animal. One animal. Rich people live in a different world, am I right? If he had actually said it, Aoko and Alice's response would have been less than cordial. You're probably right. Anyway, was there really a golden-haired child at the old school building? I don't know whether he was your werewolf. And we've had some strange orders from restaurants in town, especially that Imperial Metropolis near the station. There was no way he could eat out without drawing lots of attention to himself. She did not want to believe it, but the child had to be the werewolf. Could Toko really have been so careless as to hide him in plain sight? It didn't matter at this point. With the werewolf's habitat revealed, Toko's base had been revealed too. To take over the bounded field, she needed an inconspicuous place to store materials. Misaki High School's old school building was the perfect place. You were hiding the key to the puzzle this whole time. I wasn't hiding anything. If it actually helped with cleaning the back hills, you'd have found out you're for yourself. You shouldn't have left it to Tobimaru. Oh, she... Oh no, I don't know if she's blushing, I'm not sure. In response to Sojiro's infallible logic, Aoko snapped her fingers. Oh, she's choking him, come on! Yeah, she was blushing a little. Instead of another slipper missile, she let the faithful white collar express how she felt. Okay, This is wild. Everything's connecting. I hate this. I hate this. It's happening like it does in a Studio Trigger anime where everything that was wild that happened before didn't seem to make any sense. It's also happening like it did in Steins Gate where I was like, why are we doing this? Now it's all sort of coming together and I'm scared. I'm scared that this is gonna make me go insane. Aoko had changed. From the bed, she looked down on him with a commanding glare. Though weak from her injury, she was as sharp as ever. You would be forgiven for forgetting she was ever a patient. She was raring to fight. It went without saying who her rage was directed at. Ozaki. Aoko responded in a vulnerable tone. Perhaps she'd been taken by surprise. Now she had an objective, she had been lost in her own little world. Thanks, Sojiro. He expected her to be sarcastic, but this was different. She was genuinely thanking him. He had never known her to be like this and was taken aback. I'm just showing my appreciation because you helped me figure out where Toko's hideout is. Satisfied? Satisfied? Big pout. Sure, yeah, it's nice to be thanked, but... Are you seriously going after Toko in that condition? His tone was closer to scolding than sympathetic. Aoko simply nodded resolutely. I'm just going to take back what's mine while I still can. My sister won't waste a moment and neither will I. She sounded unshakable. Even so, Sojiro would not back down. Even if you've got almost no chance of winning? What you need right now is rest. Yesterday you were really messed up. You still are now. You're lucky to be alive. It's not luck, it's Toko. I don't understand. She purposely kept me alive to taunt me, to make me try again. She's waiting for me so we can settle the score. If she wasn't waiting, she'd have made her move already. As much as it pains me to, I'm taking your words to heart. Irritation tainted Aoko's words. From the side, she looked terrifyingly serious. She was ready to fight to the death. Toko had given her little choice. Sojiro could understand neither sister. Toko left you alive so she could kill you later? And yet you're still going after her. Might have won the battle, but she hasn't won the war. I know I'd have a better chance fully healed, but while I'm recovering, Toko's gotten her claws into Misaki. That means I need to play my trump card. I have to do what I can while I can. Though the pain in her azure eyes was not as deep as the pain of death, it spoke of the regret she would feel if she did not do everything possible while blood still flowed through her veins. Understand now? Good. Then don't try and stop me. Listen to me, Sojiro. You're not responsible for anything, not my life and not this fight. And I refuse to sit in bed waiting to die. Who'd do that if they felt they could win? Sojiro was dumbstruck. Aoko could never let anyone else get involved. Whether that was because she cared or cared less, he could not tell. What he did understand, though, was if he wanted to stop her, he would have to do so with his bare hands, and he knew better than to try that. Even so, he had to ask one last question. If he did not, he would not be able to live with himself after leaving this room. I don't get why you need to go to these lengths. Is it out of obligation, or are you just forcing yourself? There was a sadness in his eyes. However, Aoko was unmoved by them. It's not like you to ask something so deep. Alright, I'll answer even though it won't change anything. To be honest, I'm caught between the two. Don't get me wrong though, any sense of obligation, compulsion, pride, or fear comes from me and me alone. My grandfather wouldn't be mad if I stopped fighting Toko. I doubt Alice would complain either. If I chose to run, nobody would give it a second thought. That's why this is all on me. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I won't run away from Toko. All that matters is proving to myself that I'm alive. I know that my life has no meaning, and that's why I can do anything. With fiery passion, Aoko Ozaki had said her piece. Sojiro was left with a pang in his chest. He did not know why, but her words angered him. Then again, at the same time, her self-confidence had him in wonder. Even though she had said that her life had no meaning, her stubbornness gave meaning to everything. So, would that still apply if... Without thinking, he started to ask another question. Maybe he wanted to change her mind. Maybe he just wanted to hear her answer. If, say, no one was watching? It came out as a murmur. Indeed, if no one was watching, no one could know that she had fled. This was the situation Aoko was in. Even so, she shot him down instantly. Someone's always watching you, even if it's only yourself. Her expression brightened, possibly because she had been surprised at having to state the obvious. Sojiro was wide-eyed in shock, but Aoko remained nonchalant.
知らないの、宗十郎。
Haven't you figured it out yet,
生
Sojiro?
きていく上で一番の観客
Nobody
っていう
watches you
のは
more
ね
than you.
他ならぬ
That's why you have to
自分
stay
で
on your toes. Sojiro did not respond to her somewhat exasperated tone, but simply rose to his feet. He looked defeated, which was not like him at all.
宗十郎
I'm sorry. I know you're saying something really incredible. It's just, I don't understand it. He meekly walked toward the door, and as he placed his hand on the doorknob, he paused. For a few seconds, he fought with himself, desperately trying to think of something to say. No words came forth. And so he opened the door, which swung with a strange creak, and he left the room. After watching him go, Aoko turned her gaze toward the window. It was nearly evening. A thin veil of darkness was threatening to descend on the town outside. Oh, man. We are in a position, guys. We are in... Oh, the clock. It's ticking. Time is passing. Guys, we are in dire straits. We are in dire straits right now. I don't know how everyone's doing either. Mentally, I mean, physically, we know they're messed up. What is Sojiro? Who is he? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna win. It feels impossible. Seriously. By evening, only Sojiro remained in the chapel. He sat alone, slouching helplessly like a guilty believer ready to confess. Oh, poor guy. Frigid air, Sojiro looked around at the chapel's tall ceiling. The room made the air feel colder somehow. His thoughts were entirely unfocused. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He cannot understand what the buzzing sensation was in his chest. To onlookers, he must have seemed deep in thought or in a deep sleep, like he would turn to stone if left be. The problem was his lack of awareness, not that he was aware of it, of course. Worshipping at this hour? You're quite the devotee. There he is! Sojiro raised his head and turned to where the voice had come from. Stood before the altar was the man from last night, dressed in priestly garbs. How long had he been standing there? Sojiro did not have the strength to stand, let alone leave. He just stared at the approaching shadow. Though, you'll not find the Holy Spirit in this church. You mind if I sit? The priest pointed at Sojiro's pew, and without waiting for an answer, he sat down. I never formally introduced myself. I'm Aidi Fumitsuka. This church is... owner, you could say. On paper, at least. Call me Father Aidi. You must be Sojiro Shizuki, yes? I can see why Yuika didn't notice you. Father Aidi spoke in a gentle but uninvested tone. He was a thorough egoist. Sojiro knew all too well about people who spoke this way. The individual who cared for him when he first came down from the mountain was one of them. Glanced across apathetically, unfazed by lack of direction to the conversation, speak with you for a moment. Terribly worried about Aoko. Ritsuka said the same thing, but that's not it. His voice sounding uncharacteristically weak and unsure. She's been on my mind a lot, and I don't know why. I'm trying to figure that out. The answer's simple. You envy her. With those few words, Sojiro snapped out of his funk. He clapped his hands and turned toward the priest. I see. So I just envy her. Wait a second, that can't be good. I didn't know I could feel that way. Father Aidi did not respond to his confession-like ramblings. So what did you want to talk to me about? Well, it's more of a question I'd like to ask, really. I heard you lived deep in the mountains until recently. Something strikes me as curious. Well, I doubt anyone has asked you this before. No doubt because you don't unnerve the people around you. I admit, I feel the same way talking to you. Maybe it's opportunity presenting itself, or my sense of obligation as a man of the cloth. But when I see a lost lamb, I feel a need to guide it. Father Aidi looked at Sojiro placidly. His pupils were like black holes that could suck the soul out of your body. I'm not sure what you're talking about. What's your question exactly? Nothing unusual, simply, why did you come down here? You seem like you'd be happier back home. Sojiro was not sure what he had done, but it sounded as though the priest was accusing him of something. Then again, it was a reasonable question, if a little pointless. Sojiro had no answer. Father Aidi ignored the sullen boy and
山での
continued.
生活がいかに厳しいものか
I'm somewhat aware of the challenges a life in the mountains might bring. I
若い頃
experienced it firsthand when I made a small mistake in my
山での
youth.
生活は
Life in the mountains is
このような
incredibly
数々です
simple. Your time is dedicated to survival. You don't live for joy, but rather to stay alive.
楽しむために生
It
きる
makes a
のでは
minimalist lifestyle seem full of excess.
山での生活
Compared to
に比べれば
City life should be nothing short of paradise. However, paradise means something different to everyone. The only sound was a priest's voice.
一粒の種
A
の
life where
誕生すら
or even a
喜びに
single
なる
seed could
電気
bring
の明かり
joy.
がどれだけ
No matter the
高くて
warmth
も
the light of electricity brings, I
自然のままの
expect
厳
you
しい
respect the
寒さを
bitter cold of nature more.
なのになぜ
So tell me,
降りてきたのです
why
か
come here when you'd be happier in the mountains? Sojiro's mouth remained firmly shut, not because he did not want to answer, but because he simply did not know how to. All he knew was even if he wanted to go back, he could not.
そうです
My son,
そこをはっきりさせない
salvation
こ
will
とに
not
は
be forthcoming to those who choose to ignore its calling.
故郷を捨てた理由
If you don't know
もわ
why
から
you
ない
left, you won't be able
旅
to
先の
love
土
where
地
you
は
arrived.
これは忠告ですが
A word of
全
advice.
てを無条件に肯定
Happiness
したと
doesn't
ころで
come from the
幸福
unquestionable
になれる
acceptance of
とは
everything.
もう少し
Be fairer to yourself. Sojiro could not make sense of what he was being told. Only the father's last words made any impression on him. Being fairer to yourself is easier said than done, of course, and what that entailed, Sojiro was uncertain of. Makes sense. Toko had mentioned something similar before, and it had impressed him. First her, now this priest. How could people know things he hadn't even told them?
すごいですね。
Wow.
神父さんっていうの
Are all priests like you? Sojiro said, curious as to where the weight on his shoulders had gone to. In a way, one of his strong points is the fact that his emotional scars did not show on the surface.
ええ
Indeed,
神父は悩み
a
を
priest is
暴くのが
obliged to
仕
shine a
事
light
で
on
す
troubled hearts. Though of course that's not always enough. You mean talk things over to a certain extent, mostly small problems. Granted, Sojiro still did not trust Father Aidi at all, but at that moment, anyone was a ray of light in his
あ
eyes.
の、じゃあ、
Um,
たかが知れた
do you mind
程度
helping
の
me
悩
with
みを
another small problem?
君が青子をなぜ
You
羨
want to
む
know why you're envious of Aoko, correct? It was as though the priest could see into the boy's soul with his serene
えっ
eyes.
と、
Well,
まあ、そういうことです。
yeah.
自分でも、
I don't even know
どうしてそう
why I
思う
feel
の
this way
でもあ
myself.
な
But you seem
知り
to.
ませんけど
I don't.
まあ
I can simply guess, not being the one to shoulder the burden.
それはおそら
Your
く
envy may come from your lack of a foundation, or more, more accurately, you lack a color of your own. Sojiro squinted, trying to understand the priest's complicated yet concise answer.
そこです
This is what I'm talking
君に
about.
優れた
You
部
are
分があるとしたら
extraordinarily flexible.
山という異界
You
から
learned to live
街に
alone in a
出て
city after coming down from the mountains, and then once you've gotten used to that,
青子たちという
you started
非常
living with
識と
Aoko and Alice in a
暮ら
very
している
different world.
そうであると努めて
I don't know if you
いました
consciously try to adapt, but regardless, your ability to do so is
原因
astonishing.
は知りませんが
Also, I don't know why,
自我というものが
but you do not
第一
appear
に
to
現れ
exhibit
てはいないん
signs
で
of
す
a regular ego.
何事にも対応
You
で
can
きる
respond to anything but aren't influenced by
強い
it.
て言う
To be
のな
frank,
ら
you're a blank
世の
canvas
持っていない
that stays
風
blank.
景に溶け込む
While blending into your
自然さは
surroundings is a
素晴らしい
wonderful
人
thing,
格
no
です
sense of self means having
自
no
我がない
place to
いい
call
こと
home.
ばかりじゃありません
Your talent is a double-edged sword.
ユイカにまで見え
The fact
ない
Yuika didn't see was
姿
unexpected.
なき
She could
精霊す
perceive
ら
even
捉えるあれが見え
incorporeal
なかったのですから
elemental spirits, and
君
yet
の
not
欲振り
you.
も筋金入りだ
That says a lot about your lack of greed. As if amused by something, Father Aidi grinned. However, Sojiro understood neither the meaning of his smile nor his
憶
words.
測に過ぎませんが
This is
青
mere
子はあなたを見て
speculation,
反感を覚え
but
た
I
と
believe
思い
Aoko
ます
feels resentment when she looks at you.
自分のないあな
To a
た
brazen soul like her, your lack of
自己を
self is
押し
something
通し
she
てきた
simply
彼女
cannot
そ
accept.
して同時
And
に
yet, you see something in Aoko you could never attain.
言葉にするとくだらない表現
It
にな
feels
りますが
crude to put such things into words, but it is what it
先
is.
ほどは嫉妬と言い
A
まし
moment
た
ago,
が
I said you envied
そ
Aoko,
れ
but
は
that's not
訂正し
quite
ます
true.
君は青子に
In fact, you...
いや
No,
いいです
never mind.
言葉にするのは
Some things are best left unsaid. Father Aidi smiled gently. It was a fresh-faced grin that belied his age. Whenever it came to Aoko, he seemed to forget his role as a priest, but that was irrelevant to Sojiro. What exactly do I admire about Aoko, then? There you go, being direct. Some would say the priest had been direct himself, but this is Sojiro and he needed things spelled out. You still don't get it? Then you have me beat, Sojiro. Some things really are difficult to put into words. Then again, I am simply a man of the cloth. How about a change of tack?
あなたは
Do you know about Aoko's past?
詳しくは知りません。
Not much.
高校デビュー
She told me some weird stuff I didn't understand about her start to high school and things.
全く知らないという
So by not much, you mean
い
nothing.
いでしょう
Very
で
well,
はしずき
Shizuki.
君
Allow me to try something more abstract. If you were suddenly told to kill yourself, could you?
自殺
Kill myself?
そう
Yes, kill yourself. Of course, a priest shouldn't talk about such things, but my appearance is only skin deep.
青子はね
Anyway,
近いことを求められた
Aoko was asked to do something along those lines when she was
彼女
15.
がそれまで積み重ね
Throw away her
てきた
hopes and
努力も
dreams,
希望も
her past and
過去
future,
の
everything
未来
she
も
was
全
up
て
to
捨
that
てる
point.
こと
Become a
今日から
different
お前
being
はどう
entirely.
ですそれは自己の抹消
The end of yourself is the end of your future, wouldn't you agree? His words fit what Aoko had said about her past. Until middle school, she led a normal life. Then out of the blue, she became the family heiress in place of her sister. Becoming a magician meant casting aside the life she had known. She had to leave behind her ambitions and prospects and live the life of a mage, something she barely knew anything about. Her life up to that point had taught her that everything from then on would bring misery. Aoko's grandfather was not the forceful type. Your sister has failed, now it's your turn, he had said. Did Aoko resist? Sojiro could not begin to imagine. All he knew is that she could not be happy with the hand she was dealt. Even if the life of a magician was attractive, to believe the possibility that Aoko could give up her lifestyle up to that point was to not know her at all. Aoko Ozaki put her all into everything. She had probably achieved a lot in those 15 years. Her achievements and prospects were no doubt enough to make anyone jealous, but did she have the conviction to throw those away and go back to square one? And square one did not come close to the reality of it. The future she had envisioned for so long would have been obliterated.
青子
So what did Aoko do?
いやーこれが
Well,
ま
we're talking about
全くの頑固者
one
でして
exceptionally stubborn girl.
立ち会った私
Had I
でさえ
not witnessed it
どうかと思う
myself, I wouldn't have believed it,
簡
but
単にうなずきました
she nodded.
震える指を
She stood there defiantly, curling her shaking fingers into balled fists, not to appease her grandfather, not out of obligation to the Ozaki family, but because she hates to run away from anything. Now, refusing something is not the same as running away from it, but try telling that to Aoko. To her, running away would be rejecting the life she'd forged. If that was all to go, she would say farewell on her own terms. So that was what she did. Extreme, but she's the kind of person who would sacrifice everything in the name of progress. An affectionate smile crossed Father Aidi's face. Rather than signaling his closeness to Aoko, it conveyed the pride of a guardian. However, I was also mistaken. As it turns out, Aoko had been raised to become a mage all along. Her grandfather predicted Toko would leave and that Aoko would become his heiress, so he raised them both accordingly. As a priest, if only by name, I felt uncomfortable about that. I knew she had no interest in her new role. Things could hardly go exactly how her grandfather had planned, so I asked her to flee with me to Mexico. Alas, she turned me down without a moment's thought. I still remember every word of her answer.
だって
Well, me crying isn't going to change anything, is it? If I'm the only one who can do it, I'll do it. Even if I get thrown to the wolves, I'll just have to find a way to survive. Running away is only a last resort. Until then, hear me roar. The priest recited her words as if recalling lines from a favorite play. It certainly seemed like something she would say. The last thing Aoko said in the room she was recovering in probably meant the same. Of course, when an audience is watching, you want their approval. However, approval must come from within first. Aoko worked to feel proud of herself before worrying about how others viewed her. She at least wanted to do her job with grace. In response to everything she had lost, she would hang in there even if it meant going it alone. As for why Sojiro envied her, well, that was obvious. To Sojiro, she lived her life with her head held high. He was also a boy who accepted everything but had nothing. She was a girl who threw it all away but never lost a thing. Oh my god. Alright, I gotta break it up. That gets me so good. Oh, the parallels, the contrast, the juxtaposition of these two. It's not something that I would have ever, a conclusion or a thought that I would have ever arrived to by myself because I don't know anything about them and their pasts. I only know what the game has given me, and it's not that much to go off of, but with what Father Aidi has just told us, I mean, come on. How can you not love it? He stood in the meeting room alone, seeing the ugliness within and the sublime outside. He finally realized what was eating at him, looking back then. I think you see it now. It's not her appearance that strikes you as beautiful, but her spirit.
Aoko は
Not that she isn't physically beautiful, of course. Sojiro nodded. From the day he first met her, that was indeed how he had felt. That she had a beautiful spirit, I see. It just took him till now to realize it. The strength in her eyes and her unwavering will had captured his heart.
なんか
She
すごい汗がまんだ。
she puts up with a lot.
本当に
She really does.
小娘の
There's a lot of fight packed into that small frame. Father Ide spoke from the heart. Sojiro raised his head, gave a small grin, and scratched his cheek. So many hours wasted brooding like an idiot. Part of him still felt strange, but it didn't bother him to leave the question unsolved for now. Unable to stay still, he stood up. He couldn't care less about the Ozaki family, mage battles, or Aoko rushing off to her death. Right now, he just wanted to see her face.
お待ちなさい。病室は立ち入り禁止です。
And that is where we're going to leave it for today. Another wonderful conversation involving Shizuki, involving our man. Oh, very interesting. I'm sure I don't even need to tell you guys why that whole conversation is fascinating. I love it when we learn so much through a character interaction. It's always so fun, even if they did exposition at us a little bit. That was good. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely did, and I will see you guys in the next video. So for now, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye!